Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are tackling really one of the biggest challenges in biology, something people have called its holy grail for decades.
Yeah, the protein folding problem.
Exactly, taking that, the simple string of amino acids
It's just a sequence.
and figuring out the incredibly complex 3D shape it folds into. It sounds simple, but it's just monumentally hard.
And we're diving in because one paper recently really made some waves, sent ripples through the tech community.
You mean SimpleFold. Folding proteins is simpler than you think.
That's the one. It didn't just spark interest, it exploded on Hacker News. We're talking over 100 comments, nearly 300 points.
Wow.
That tells you it really struck a chord. A kind of philosophical nerve about what simplicity means in science today.
Okay, right. So let's unpack this then. Our mission here is to figure out why this paper got such a mixed reaction. Hailed by some, dismissed by others.
Was it a genuine breakthrough, or maybe just a clever engineering trick?
And maybe the bigger picture question. What does this whole thing, this SimpleFold story, tell us about where AI science is heading? Especially when you see huge companies like Apple stepping into what looks like pure biology research.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms. But the paper's core claim, the hook, was that this super complex problem could potentially be cracked with a model that had surprising architectural simplicity.
Simplicity. In a field known for, well, absolutely massive models. That's definitely appealing.
Oh, absolutely. That pull towards simplicity. It's not just like an aesthetic preference for engineers. It runs deep in science itself.
You mean Occam's razor?
Yeah.
Parsimony.
Exactly. The idea that all else being equal, the simplest explanation, the one with the fewest assumptions, is probably the best one. We're sort of wired to seek elegance, aren't we?
Yeah, and historically, the big leaps often come from simplifying things, right?
Totally. The source material actually brought up a great analogy.
Yeah.
The shift from Ptolemy's view of the cosmos to Kepler's.
Ptolemy.
Yeah.
The epicycles guy. Circles on circles on circles just to make the planets move right.
Right. It worked mathematically. You could predict things, but it was just incredibly clunky. So complex.
And then Kepler comes along.
And says, look, forget all those circles. They're just ellipses. Simple. That's real progress, finding a simpler, more general rule that explains more elegantly.
And that translates to modern machine learning too, doesn't it? Simpler models have practical advantages.
Huge advantages. They train faster, they run faster, they need less computing power, which is actually a big deal for making the tech accessible.
Right, democratization.
And crucially, they're often easier to understand, to debug, to figure out why they made a certain prediction, less of a black box.
Okay, but one point raised in the discussion was about the title itself, simpler than you think.
That comparative aspect is key. It's not necessarily claiming absolute ground-up simplicity.
So the argument goes, maybe SimpleFold isn't the first step in figuring out folding. It's more like the second step.
Exactly. You often need that first, maybe messy, super complex model like AlphaFold to just prove it can be done, to map out the territory.
And then you can look at what it learned, figure out the essential parts, and distill it down into something more elegant, like SimpleFold.
Precisely. AlphaFold did the heavy lifting, showed which features really mattered. SimpleFold then built on that foundation, using that knowledge to create something leaner. It's refinement.
It's optimization, not necessarily a fundamental discovery from scratch.
Yeah. And, the sources pointed out this was likely a smart communication strategy too. Leading with simplicity guaranteed a big discussion, made it about the philosophy of progress, got people talking.
Which it certainly did. Okay, so that sets the stage. But the praise wasn't universal. No, it wasn't. And this is where things get really interesting and where the main critique comes in. If the model is simple, where did the complexity actually go?
Well, according to the critics, it went into the data. The absolute crucial point, the source of all the debate, is what SimpleFold was trained on. It was not trained primarily on raw, experimentally determined protein structures.
You mean not the stuff from the lab, like X-ray crystallography, cryo-EM?
Yeah.
The data you find in the protein data bank, the PDB, the ground truth.
Exactly that. SimpleFold largely skipped that messy, real-world data. Instead, it was trained mainly on the outputs, the predictions, generated by those big, complex models, like AlphaFold.
So it's learning from the answers AlphaFold already came up with, not from the original problem.
Pretty much. It's like learning from the teacher's answer key, not the textbook problems themselves.
Okay, I see why that would raise eyebrows. Isn't that just copying, or worse, copying the teacher's mistakes?
That's precisely the core of the critique. There was a really sharp comment on Hacker News from a user called Hashta, I think they put it perfectly.
What did they say?
They said the complexity hasn't been eliminated at all. It's just been shifted from the model space into the data space.
Ooh, that's a great way to put it. Okay, break that down. Model space versus data space.
So AlphaFold is complex in the model space. Huge architecture, tons of parameters, sophisticated attention mechanisms, the works.
Right.
SimpleFold is, well, simpler in the model space, smaller, more streamlined architecture. But the data SimpleFold learns from is incredibly complex in the data space. Because AlphaFold already did the hard part. It figured out the intricate spatial relationships, it filtered out the noise from experimental data, it basically pre-processed reality.
So SimpleFold gets this pre-digested data, making his job way easier.
Exactly. AlphaFold acted like a massive feature extractor, handing SimpleFold the important bits on a platter.
Okay, so this sounds like a known technique in ML, right? Knowledge distillation.
Spot on. That's what it is. You have a big, powerful teacher model, AlphaFold, train a smaller, more efficient student model, SimpleFold, to mimic its outputs.
And that is valuable from an engineering perspective.
Absolutely. That's why it's also seen as an engineering success. The upside is huge efficiency gains. SimpleFold needs way fewer resources, runs much faster, scales better. It makes high accuracy prediction more accessible.
But the downside,
Yeah.
the scientific trade-off.
The student can never be better than a teacher. SimpleFold's performance is fundamentally limited by AlphaFold's accuracy. It inherits AlphaFold's blind spots, its biases.
And critically, it probably can't generalize to new types of proteins that AlphaFold itself couldn't handle.
That's the major concern. It can't really discover anything fundamentally new about folding beyond what AlphaFold already captured.
So this brings us back to that philosophical point. Is the goal to build like a super efficient lookup table, something that's great at interpolating between known points?
Or is the goal to find general physical principles, laws that let us extrapolate, predict things we've truly never seen before?
And the consensus seemed to be that SimpleFold nails the first goal. It's a fantastic engineering optimization.
Right. But maybe not the second. Not a fundamental breakthrough in our understanding of the biophysics. It compressed the knowledge. It didn't necessarily deepen it.
Okay, so SimpleFold is this efficient student model, but it's important to remember, as the sources highlighted, it's just one piece of a much bigger puzzle, right? This whole protein folding ecosystem is diverse.
Absolutely. We need to zoom out a bit. One key distinction is between these statistical prediction models, like AlphaFold and SimpleFold, and actual physics-based simulation.
Right. Different questions, different tools.
Exactly. The statistical models, they answer, what is the final shape? The stable, folded structure. They give you a static picture based on patterns learned from data.
But they don't really tell you how it got there, or what happens if it goes wrong.
Precisely. That's where the physics-based simulations come in. Think folding at home. They try to answer, how does it fold?
Simulating the actual dynamics.
Yeah.
Wiggling and jiggling based on like quantum forces and thermodynamics.
Yeah, exactly. So computationally way, way more expensive. Orders of magnitude slower.
But essential for some things.
Indispensable for understanding the folding pathway, for studying misfolding, which is linked to diseases like Alzheimer's, and for seeing those intermediate states that the prediction models just gloss over.
So different tools for different jobs. And the discussion also got into the input data for prediction models too, specifically multiple sequence alignments, MSAs.
Ah, yes, MSAs. That was kind of AlphaFold's secret weapon. Looking at how related proteins co-evolved gave it crucial clues.
But MSAs have drawbacks too, right?
They do. Creating them is complex, computationally intensive, and the biggest issue, they just don't work for orphan proteins, proteins that don't have many known relatives in the databases. AlphaFold struggles with those.
So people are already looking beyond MSAs.
Definitely. And this is where another paradigm comes in. Models like ESMFold, these are often based on large language models like the ones driving ChatGPT.
LLMs for proteins, how does that work?
Instead of needing alignments of many related proteins, they try to learn the language of protein biology directly from single sequences. They treat the amino acid sequence like text.
Interesting. So no need for evolutionary context from MSAs.
Potentially, yes. The idea is, as we get more and more sequence data, these LLM-based models could become faster, more robust, and handle those Occam proteins much better. They might eventually make MSAs less critical, maybe even obsolete for prediction.
Wow. So even within the prediction lane, things are evolving fast.
Right. It's a rapidly changing field. Which brings us to maybe the most surprising part of the SimpleFold story for many people.
The author list. Apple. Why is Apple, the iPhone company, doing fundamental research in computational biology? That question popped up a lot.
It did. It seems anomalous, right? But the discussion surfaced several pretty compelling strategic reasons. This isn't just a random side project.
Okay, like what? Talent.
That's number one, talent acquisition. By publishing high-profile, fundamental research like this, Apple puts itself on the map for top-tier AI and ML researchers.
So they can compete with, say, Google DeepMind or academic labs for the best minds.
Exactly. It signals they're serious about deep R&D, not just consumer products. These elite researchers want to work on hard, interesting problems.
Makes sense. What else? Health tech.
That's the long game. Think Apple Watch, Health Kit. This kind of foundational research could, years down the line, feed into personalized medicine, diagnostics, maybe even drug discovery tools integrated into their ecosystem. It's building blocks.
Okay, building blocks. And then there's the hardware connection.
Yeah, the synergy there is really interesting. Pushing the boundaries with huge, complex models like protein folding predictors serves as a perfect real-world stress test for their hardware.
You mean it helps them design better chips, like the neural engine in Apple's silicon?
Precisely. They use the research to drive hardware improvements, and better hardware lets them tackle even harder research problems. It's a virtuous cycle.
Okay, that's clever. Talent, long-term health, hardware synergy, anything else? Cloud, maybe?
That came up too. Potential down the road to offer specialized cloud computing services. Protein folding as a service for biotech and pharma companies running efficiently on Apple silicon.
And someone mentioned Apple's brand. How does that fit in?
Well, the idea was that Apple's image as the sort of high-end, ecosystem-focused company gives them a bit more latitude. They can enter a prestigious field like pure science and kind of define their involvement on their own terms without the immediate pressure to turn it into a product next quarter.
It adds to the mystique, maybe.
Perhaps. But the bigger trend here, as the discussion noted, is this sort of industrialization of fundamental science.
Meaning, research that used to happen mainly in universities is now being driven by big tech companies with strategic goals.
Yeah, the lines are blurring between pure, open-ended discovery and applied R&D aimed at future products or services. Apple's entry here is a big signal of that shift. #tag synthesis and concluding analysis.
Okay, so let's try to pull this all together. This SimpleFold paper, this whole discussion around it, it really feels like a snapshot of where AI is right now, doesn't it? All these tensions playing out.
It really does. You've got the drive for efficiency, the elegance of simplicity.
Butting up against questions about where the real complexity lies and what constitutes genuine understanding versus just clever mimicry.
Right. So the verdict on SimpleFold seems pretty clear from the discussion we analyzed. It's definitely an architectural and engineering success, a big one.
Yeah, taking that incredibly complex knowledge baked into AlphaFold and distilling it, compressing it into something much smaller, faster, more accessible. It's hugely valuable. It democratizes the capability.
No question. But it's not really a fundamental scientific breakthrough in the sense of simplifying our understanding of the underlying physics.
Because it outsourced the complexity.
Yeah.
It learned from the answer key, essentially.
Exactly. It didn't find a simpler law of nature. It found a simpler way to encode the predictions of a model that had grappled with the complexity.
So, looking ahead, the consensus wasn't that SimpleFold replaces everything else.
Not at all. The future sounds much more like a multi-tool approach. The field won't converge on a single best model.
It'll specialize.
Seems like it. You'll have SimpleFold-like models for speed, for maybe high-throughput screening where efficiency is paramount. You'll still need AlphaFold or its successors for the highest accuracy, the gold standard predictions.
And then things like ESM-fold for those tricky orphan proteins.
Right, leveraging that single-sequence LLM approach. And of course, physics-based simulations like folding at home will remain absolutely critical for understanding the dynamics, the how, and the why, especially for disease-related misfolding.
A diverse toolkit, then, each playing its part.
Exactly. It's not one winner takes all. It's about using the right tool for the right scientific question.
A diverse toolkit, increasingly funded and shaped by large corporations with their own long-term strategies.
Which leads us neatly to that final, maybe slightly unsettling thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Go on.
As these corporate giants, your Apples, your Googles, become more dominant in funding and directing fundamental scientific research, what does that mean for the traditional norms? Open collaboration, freely sharing data and results.
Will the direction of science itself start to shift, driven more by private strategic interests than by Well, just pure curiosity.
It's a huge question. That tension between open science and corporate strategy, well, it's definitely not going away. It's probably only going to get louder.